It was a cold afternoon in a small American town where the sky looked heavy and gray, like it carried the sadness of those who had given up on hope. On a cracked sidewalk outside an old bakery, a young woman sat holding her daughter close. Her coat was thin, her hands trembling not only from the chill but from exhaustion and fear. Beside her was a paper bag with nothing but a half-empty bottle of water and a small piece of bread that had gone hard. The little girl, around 7 years old, with messy golden curls and blue eyes that had seen too much sadness for her age, looked up at her mother and whispered something that made the woman's heart break into 1,000 pieces. "Mama, do you think God forgot us? If you believe that kindness still exists, that miracles come through the hearts of ordinary people, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to this channel to spread hope and second chances." Her name was Claire, and her daughter was Lily. Just 2 months ago, they had a home, a tiny apartment that smelled of pancakes in the morning and laughter in the evening. But after Claire's company downsized and she lost her job, everything began to crumble. The bills piled up, rent went unpaid, and soon they found themselves with nowhere to go. Claire tried every possible way to find work, but the world wasn't kind to a woman with no recent experience and a child to care for. Each day became a battle of survival, finding food, a place to rest, and keeping Lily's spirit alive when her own hope was fading fast. On that particular day, they had gone to the bakery hoping for day-old bread that might be thrown away. But even that small mercy didn't come. Claire sat on the curb, fighting back tears as Lily rested her head on her mother's lap, her empty stomach growling softly. People passed by without seeing them, just shadows in a world too busy to care. That's when a man across the street noticed them. He had been working on his truck, grease on his hands, wearing a flannel shirt and jeans. His name was Jack, a single dad himself. He had known struggle, pain, and loneliness all too well. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, leaving him to raise his son Ethan on his own. Jack had learned how to stretch a dollar, how to work late nights fixing engines, and how to smile through the pain for his boy's sake. When he saw the woman and child, something in his heart stirred deeply. He could have walked away, like so many others did. But something about that little girl's torn sweater and the way her mother held her spoke directly to his soul. He wiped his hands, crossed the street, and stopped a few feet away. Claire looked up, startled and cautious. She had grown used to looks of pity or judgment. But Jack's expression wasn't either. It was one of quiet concern. Without saying a word, he went inside the bakery. Moments later, he came out carrying 2 warm sandwiches, a carton of milk, and a small apple pie. He crouched down and placed the food beside them gently. Claire tried to protest, shaking her head, saying she couldn't accept charity. But before she could finish, Lily's little hand reached for the milk, eyes wide with gratitude. Jack simply smiled and said, "No one should be hungry, not today." Then he walked away without waiting for thanks. But something about his simple kindness felt different. It wasn't pity. It was respect. Later that evening, as the streetlights flickered on, Claire and Lily found a small bench outside the gas station where Jack worked nights fixing cars. He saw them again, this time huddled under an old blanket, trying to sleep. He couldn't ignore the image. After hours of struggling with his thoughts, he made a decision that would change all their lives. He went to them with 2 steaming cups of cocoa and said, "It's cold tonight. I have a spare room above my garage. It's not much, but it's warm and safe." Claire hesitated. She didn't trust easily anymore. But when she saw Lily shivering, she nodded silently. The room was small but cozy, an old couch, a space heater, and a little kitchen. Jack didn't ask questions. He simply gave them space and dignity. Over the next few days, he watched as Claire tried to help out, cleaning, cooking small meals with whatever little they had. She was proud and hardworking, the kind of woman who had forgotten how to ask for help but still gave her best to others. Lily quickly bonded with Ethan, Jack's 8-year-old son. The two became inseparable, laughing, sharing stories, and turning that tiny space into something that almost felt like home. One evening, as Jack fixed dinner, he overheard Claire telling Lily a bedtime story about faith, about angels who watched over people when they felt forgotten. But halfway through, Claire's voice cracked. She whispered softly, "I just wish God remembered us again." Jack stood at the doorway, his heart tightening. After she tucked Lily in, he said quietly, "Maybe he did remember you. Maybe he sent someone to remind you." Claire looked at him, eyes glistening, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled. Days turned into weeks. Jack helped Claire find small cleaning jobs around town. She was a fast learner, determined to rebuild. Every evening, they'd all sit together at the little wooden table, sharing simple meals but feeling something richer than food, belonging. Jack began to notice the spark in Claire's eyes returning, and the laughter that once filled his house slowly came back. It had been years since he'd felt such peace. One rainy afternoon, Claire came home late, drenched from head to toe. She'd gone for a job interview at a diner, and to her surprise, she'd been hired. She stood in the doorway, crying, not from sadness, but relief. "They gave me a chance," she whispered. Jack smiled, handing her a towel. "I told you, good things find good people." Life started to change. Claire saved every penny she could, determined to stand on her own. But even as she grew stronger, she never forgot the man who had opened his door without expecting anything in return. One evening, she baked a pie, the same kind Jack had bought for them that first day, and placed it on the table with a small note. "You didn't just feed us that day, Jack. You gave us faith back months later." The diner where Claire worked became a small haven for others in need. She would quietly pay for a stranger's meal now and then, always remembering the night she and Lily were cold and hungry. Jack continued working at his garage, but every weekend he'd visit the diner with Ethan. The four of them had become a family, not by blood, but by grace and kindness. One winter night, the town faced a snowstorm that left many stranded. The diner stayed open late, offering free hot soup. Claire watched as Jack carried boxes of supplies from his truck, helping people find shelter. Lily, now brighter and stronger, stood by her mother's side handing out bread. When a little boy, no older than she once was, looked up and asked, "Do you think God forgot us?" Lily smiled gently and said, "No. Sometimes he just sends the right people to remind us he's still here." That sentence echoed in Claire's heart long after, because she finally understood that miracles weren't flashes of light or sudden wealth. They were people who showed up when the world turned away. And Jack had been that miracle. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that restore faith in humanity. Because kindness, no matter how small, can change someone's entire world. And before you go, tell us in the comments, have you ever been helped by a stranger when you needed it most? Or have you been that stranger for someone else? We'd love to read your story. As the snow fell quietly outside the diner window that night, Claire looked across the room at Jack, Ethan, and Lily laughing together. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel forgotten. She felt found. God hadn't abandoned them after all. He had simply worked through a single dad who chose to answer a hungry little girl's question. Not with words, but with action.